People my generation and younger are constantly being told these days that you have to have kids because the United States is going to run into a population crisis. We are not having enough kids. It's not going to be enough to keep the economy going. God forbid, it's not enough to keep the economy going, right? Well, a lot of people who have been having kids are finding out it is not the whimsical dream that they thought they signed up for. Okay? Because people are already feeling the squeeze from all the inflation that we've seen that's had an impact on everyday life, such as your food, your rent, your mortgage payment, your insurance costs, you name it. But if you're a parent, it's all of that stuff amplified times 10 because you got to pay for all that stuff for your kids as well. And a lot of parents right now are saying that they are completely overwhelmed being a parent. In fact, over 80% of parents these days say that the cost of raising kids is completely out of control. In a recent survey of 2,500 Americans by BMO Financial Group, 71% of parents with children under 18 years old said that they felt overwhelmed by their financial responsibilities compared to 54% of parents without children at home, meaning that the kids are already old enough and out of the house. But even still, 54% of people with kids, even once the kids aren't living with them anymore, it's still a lot. They're still feeling that financial squeeze. And by the way, I'm walking down Gelder Street in Tiburon, California. So parents today are reporting feeling significant financial pressure, but a lot of them are stepping up to the plate and setting yearly budget targets that they are trying to meet. So in this survey, 83% of parents said that the cost of raising kids has gotten out of control, and 77% of parents said that they felt pressure to keep up with other families by spending more than they should. Oh man, nothing like keeping up with the Joneses, huh? 77% of parents feel like they have to keep up with the Joneses. That is like so sad and pathetic, man, when I really think about it. I guess things have probably always been like that, but I think the FOMO these days is so much more real than it ever used to be, probably due to social media, because even parents use social media and they see all of their friends taking their kids on vacations and buying them stuff or whatever, and they want to do the same. And they oftentimes end up spending money that they don't have in order to make those accommodations. In another survey of 3,000 parents by Ameriprise Financial, more than 70% of respondents said that they experienced parental guilt that resulted in overcompensating with small perks or overspending on their children. And nearly 90% of parents in this survey said that they plan to pay for some portion of their children's college education. And 57% of these parents surveyed said that they would probably or definitely help their children financially after they left the nest. So that explains why 54% of parents these days who are empty nesters are still feeling financially stretched because they're probably still giving their kids money. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of parents today who are giving their children money, their adult children, probably had no idea what they were signing up for when they became a parent, 20 or 30 years ago, because back then the cost of living was not outrageous, and as long as you had a good job, you could reasonably expect to keep up with it, but that is simply no longer the case. So naturally, many parents are having to make some major trade-offs in financial sacrifices, and those trade-offs often look like, are we doing a big family vacation this year, or are we going to be saving for their children's college fund, or just keeping up with the cost of living, or keeping up with the Joneses, apparently. Also, this data is backed up by Vanguard, who also found out that many parents are spending more than they expected on their kids, and those financial losses are compounded by not putting savings in high-yield accounts. Now, a lot of parents in the survey did say that they open savings accounts for their children. They encourage their kids to save for short-term goals once they get a little bit older and they can start understanding the concept of money. More than half of parents said that they pay their kids an allowance, and a whopping 96% of parents said that they used the tooth fairy to give their kids a few extra bucks now and again. And I can say that I definitely received those things when I was a kid. I actually used to look forward to pulling out a tooth and getting the tooth fairy money. I thought that was super fun when I was a kid. And I actually still have some of my tooth fairy money, believe it or not. $2 bills and, half dollars and the silver dollars and stuff that you used to get was pretty cool. And I saved that stuff. I think an allowance is cool too for kids to start understanding budgeting and understanding how money works. But I do think that your kids should earn the allowance, okay? They need to do some chores around the house. I know I certainly had to in order to get an allowance, and I was happy to do it. I always wanted to work from a young age. And I think having that set up when I was young really instilled the work ethic in me that I have today, which allows me to show up for you guys 6 days a week relentlessly here on YouTube without missing a beat. And just like when I was a kid earning my allowance money, I'm happy to do it. I enjoy doing this. I like showing up for this every week, and I feel the incentive to work. But you're